Yeah, either as Student Identifiers Registrar or Hey You, that's the other one that I get. Thanks, Andrew, and I welcome the compulsory applause that you've promised. It could help me enormously at the end of my presentation. So I stand here, I guess, as a data custodian. I manage quite a large database. Over 8.4 million unique student identifier records exist now for individuals, but also as a big fan of data linkage, and that's because essentially the USI, its raison d'etre is to be a linkage key, to link data together. So like Tanil, I'm a big fan of using data to provide rich policy insight, and I guess we join Michelle in that sense as well. I saw the abstract. We wanted to spice up the abstract for the presentation today, and I think we used phrases like transformative, putting people at the centre of the National Vet Data Collection, which I like that one. And then we used the word profound, which was probably jumping the shark a little bit, but I'm going to have a go at a few simple messages that talk about how we can use the USI to take forward human knowledge in leaps and bounds. Where's the doodad? See if we get that bit right. Right, so some of you will know that USI is a randomly generated numeric reference, a little bit like the tax file number that was referenced earlier today. One of its special features is that it's validated against a government ID, so when it's created either by a student or an RTO, that helps it to be a bit more unique and a bit more robust as an identifier, reduces duplication and the like. Once people have got one, it links together their nationally recognised training data in the National Vet Data Collections. The idea is you get one unique student identifier for life. You can have a universal student identifier. I saw a United student identifier recently. But either way, they link your vet records together. As I said, we've created about 8.3 million. An important public deliverable and an outcome of being able to link data together is that we're able to provide individuals with access to their own vet training records from the NCVR collection, and that was seen as an exciting step forward. We turned that service on in May last year, and over 500,000 people have accessed their records since we activated that service for them online. We now have 3 years worth of training data linked using USIs, and that's obviously the value is going to grow as that goes forward. Probably an important thing to point out in the context of this is that USI is not technically a compulsory component of the vet data collection. People can have an exemption from it if they want to. Luckily, most people don't seek an exemption. I think somewhere in the order of 100 people out of 8 million have sought an exemption from having USI, but it is a reminder that it's part of a bargain we have with citizens about getting access to their data. So benefits of the USI, the public-facing benefits are generally talked about in terms of that student access, and that is quite a powerful tool for people now, and it will grow for people throughout their life, both for enrolment in further training, but also for employment purposes. The training sector is a dynamic one. We have several hundred training organisations leave the sector each year, and if your training provider has left the sector and you've lost your bit of paper, then it can be hard to provide evidence of your qualifications. The USI and the linked transcript record is going to help people in that regard. But today, I guess the focus is on the other key benefit of linked data, which is for policy making and for research. USI is transforming, I guess, a set of disembodied snapshot records of people's enrolment in training into a linked personal history of training achievement throughout a person's life, and that means the data can be looked at in different ways going forward. And I'd like to encourage those of you who are researchers in the audience to think about using the data in that way. We're used to using the data as a structured, as a super powerful data set, but it'd be great to start thinking about using it as a linked history of a person's training and follow their pathways into and out of the training sector to inform policy, to inform program design. If there are program deliverers around the tables today, think about the value of including a USI in the data collection for your program, and then maybe not needing to collect so much other information. Why is that? Why is that? Because the real hero in vet data, and I've previously described it as being analogous to Smorg's hoard of data gold, is the Evetmus data set. Now, you probably can't read that slide. It's meant to have symbolic value that it conveys that there's oodles and oodles of data in that data set collected every year about people's demographic characteristics, about their industry and employment characteristics, and quite granular information about their training activities. A fabulous data source to inform policy. Now, and the USI is just one little segment of that, one little component, and its role is to give access to people to that data in a way that is slightly more privacy positive, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So you can look at that data in really quite intense ways, looking intensely into individual characteristics without necessarily having to know someone's name and address to do so. And I think that's really healthy, and we should be using it in that way. I guess the last message I wanted to convey was about balance in these things. So the idea is that we want people to be ambitious but thoughtful in the way that they access these data sets, because we're balancing access to richer and richer information about people, but we have to do that against people's right to privacy and that bargain that I talked about people making at the point that they sign up and provide that information to government and to the national data collection. So I want to encourage people to use the tool. The USI number is stored in the National Vet Data Collection. The USI itself is a database, includes people's names and personal information. The USI is obviously a data linkage tool. The USI database can be used for data linkage under certain circumstances. And I guess in the early testing of that availability from people, something I noticed is that people were quickly put off by the fact that you need to go through some processes to get access to that data. So there's encouragement to access, but there's some process to go to. Some of this may be seeming like teaching people the obvious, but what question am I investigating? What data do I really need to investigate that question? Can I do it with de-identified data? The rules around access to de-identified data are much looser, more permissive than when you want to get into people's personal data and look at that. Do I need to link 2 or more data sets is a question, and often you do. So my colleagues will talk about a really important project doing exactly that, drawing on the USI database later on in the session today. Do I really need USIs to do the investigation, or do I just need a linked record that was created using USI is the question. So I've put up there on the slide, and that'll be available to people, some links to the guidance. We don't have time today to go through the processes for doing that, but I would encourage people, I guess, to be ambitious in your data linkage, but thoughtful about your research proposals in creating them. Have I got minuted yet?
You have.
Oh, good.
And you're out of time.
I'm out of time? No.